on in America, what is going on in the world. So I'm sure that wherever you are, that you've heard about the assassination of social activist Charlie Kirk out of Arizona. He was shot to death last week, Wednesday, right before we were supposed to have our show last week, Wednesday. He was shot to death in public forum at the University of Utah Valley University. Excuse my language. And he was shot live. We seen a gruesome killing live on TV, and it was horrifying. Okay, and so since then, America has been in an uproar because it brings up a lot of conversation. It brings up so much to talk about. Now, most people that do know about Charlie Kirk was he was an activist that would go on college campuses. Maybe some of you have heard of Candace Owens. Candace Owens was also an activist that went on the college campuses with the Turning Point organization. And basically, they would go and have forums and talk about politics from a youth perspective. And Charlie's been doing this since he's 18. He passed away sadly last week, Wednesday, September 10th at the age of 31, turning 32 in October. So this is a tragedy. He has two kids, a wife, and I'm sure many other people are devastated. So they would do these shows on these college campuses talking to young people about politics and how they felt about politics. And most people know that he had a really strong viewpoint of himself. He had his own perspectives about what America should be doing. Christian man, followed the rules of the Bible, to what he's saying out of his mouth. But he had a lot of other things to say about other cultures, other races, and things of that nature. So he stirred the pot a lot, right? And he was very instrumental in helping President Donald Trump get elected in this last election with the young people and going from college campus to college campus. So he was not only talking a lot, he was making a lot of money, going out here for these super PACs and these political folks and bringing people alive. And, he's done so much. So unfortunately, last week, a gentleman named Tyler Robinson allegedly shot him from a rooftop 200 feet while he was speaking, while he just started speaking at Utah Valley. He shot him to death in his neck, one shot. And Tyler, 22-year-old native of Utah, said that it was too much hate. So now Tyler is found alive. Okay. He went to his own home, started talking to his parents, who his father turned him in, and he told them that he killed them. So this was outrageous, obviously, because he told them that, I killed him and he had too much hate in him. And so his parents convinced him to turn himself in. His parents said that he actually wanted to commit suicide as a result of, shooting Charlie, and that he was living with a transgender man transitioning to a woman, and they think that this may be his lover or his boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm not sure, but he supposedly had a relationship there. And so a lot of the stuff that Charlie talked about was very, very controversial. He said horrible things. And I think what Charlie did is that he said what the white man wanted to say. Now, I don't disagree with him, having his perspectives. This is where we are, the new American perspective. I didn't disagree with him sharing his perspectives with the world. I mean, now some of the stuff that he would say was very harsh. He talked about uh, Kamala Harris. He talked about Ketanji Brown and said that they're DEI hires and they wouldn't have got hired any other way. He talked about immigrants, coming over. And then most recently, he talked about Israel And some people are saying, conspiracy theorists, some people are saying that when he started talking about Israel is when he really started going down the wrong, I don't know what you want to call it, but you don't talk about that in America, so says some people. Okay, so he started talking about Israel and how they were doing some weird stuff and all of that kind of stuff. So some conspiracy theorists, they are saying that he may have met his demise, in the back room by looking at and talking about Israel. And because when he talked about black folks, it was okay. And when he talked about how, he was just his candor was very comfortable. He's telling everybody, debate me. And again, I don't think that there's anything wrong with his conversation. Some things that people say that you're not going to like. And some of the things that he said, I didn't like. But again, I feel like America is a free speech country. Everybody should be able to get their perspectives in. Now, what I didn't like is that what he thought was that everything that he was saying was gold, that everything that he was touching was going to be gold, and everything that he said as a result was right because he said it and because he's going in and getting numbers and things of that nature. And so there's a lot of people that didn't like Charlie Kirk. So as a result of that, a lot of people got fired last week because of their uh, comebacks. And they were online laughing, online saying horrible things. People were happy and clapping for his death. And people, I just don't know. I don't know if that's ever a place that we should be. Like clapping and applauding somebody's death. Should we be in that place? I don't know. I really think that this is stuff that we really need to think about as a culture, as an American culture, and as a people. And I'm not saying that Charlie was right. I'm not saying that some of the things that he's saying is right. Now, he is trending as number one now on number one podcast because everybody's going back over to see the things that he said. Did he deserve to die is a question. I mean, who deserves to die, right? Who's to be the judge of that? We can't be the judge of that in those kind of situations at all. So we really got to look at where we're coming from and where we're going with that, right? So Charlie wasn't necessarily right. He had a family that he was building, and he was building out, young people, and they thought that maybe Charlie would eventually run for vice president and become the president one day. Well, he was putting together his numbers and his young people that are going to get older, that are going to continue to expand. So the college campus was a great place to start. Now, what I didn't like is exactly that. Like, you're going on to college campuses and you're trying to influence young people before their minds are really completely developed into what they're thinking about. Before they get out into the real world, you're giving them a real dose of politics, but only one-sided. And then you're telling them, oh, you're wrong. And Charlie didn't go to college. That's another thing. He didn't go to college. So he was on these college campuses and he's telling, the kids everything that he's thinking out the top of his head, off the top of his head. And he's going in and all of a sudden, without a college degree, he should be on a college campus teaching kids about politics. I don't know if that's exactly where we want people and where we want things. I mean, tune in, tap in, subscribe to us, come and talk to us about this. How do you feel? How did that assassination make you feel? And then President Trump, he had the flag pulled half staff, right? So he said Charlie Kirk is an important member of this society and he will be remembered by having the flag. He will be remembered by, having the flags half staff and everything of that nature. And so that is just like, what is going on with President Trump. Now, some people think that he shouldn't have that he had no jurisdiction over America and he shouldn't have flags half-staff, which is reserved for, national folks and people that have really served the United States. So how do you feel about that? Did he serve the United States? Did Charlie Kirk serve the United States? I think that he served a group of people. And what I think that he did is that he went to his white community and was telling his white community things that they wanted to hear that they don't get to hear all the time. People in the white community, and especially younger people, are saying that DEI and the fact that Black people get an opportunity to have affirmative action and things of that nature is not right. That everybody should be on equal plane. And so therein lies most of the problem, is that we're asking Charlie, this equal plane that you speak of, are you speaking it from a white privilege perspective? And that's where most people saw his rhetoric and some of the stuff that he was saying. He was saying that people, didn't have the capacity to do this and that. And he said some really harsh things. And then we'll take a look at some of the things that he said, and then you be the judge. So people, like I said, people got fired after he got assassinated for talking about the things that they were talking about. His funeral arrangements, where J.D. Vance and President Trump are going to be speaking, will be happening this week, October 21st. September 21st. October 21st is my birthday, by the way, if you want to tap in. But September 21st, President Trump and J.D. Vance will be addressing the crowd. And I think they're having at the State Farm Arena in Arizona. So they expect this to be a really big turnout. And Charlie's wife, who addressed the nation last week, and she said, if you thought that you were killing Charlie, all you did was turn us into monsters out here. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of Charlie Kirks. I think that Charlie Kirk will be their dying cry. Now, some Black pastors have jumped out and said, hold up, we are not giving Charlie all this much love. What has he done to earn this love? Where the words that are coming out of his mouth and the words that we hear are, words of, discouragement and words of division. And so pastors like Jamal Bryant, they jumped out and they, their Sunday sermon, they talked about, how they would never want to see somebody die or never wish death on anybody. But what they do want to do is they want to make sure that the Black community is not responsible for the death of Charlie Kirk, or that the Black community is not have to have the empathy. Now, Charlie said something very interesting about empathy when he was alive, and he talked about, you don't have to have empathy, and he talked about, we need people to die by gunfire because, it pushes the Second Amendment rights. And so obviously he wasn't saying that for himself, but the irony of it is what got people talking and up in craze, moments. And so, nevertheless, we cannot take away the work that he did for the Republican Party, for Turning Point. That's why we know Candace Owens as we know her, because of the stage that Charlie Kirk and she shared. So if you also might have saw that Candace Owens, she posted her and Charlie, rapping and, hanging out, and they were really good friends. And so, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk and all the work that he's done, in this country. So we're going to go to a break. And when we come back, we'll talk more about Charlie Kirk and what's happening in America. And here on Millennium News 24, this is your host, Jania Butler. AB Butler will be back in the building with the G check. I'm just on remote location. So we will be back in a minute.